I'm Michael Kenchington from Sound Plus, and I'm here to talk about how to get the most from your home theater audio here at the lab.
Well, here we go. A time for another Lab with Leo. My name is Leo Laporte, and this is the show where we help you get the most out of your technology. Kate Abraham is here to help us get the most out of our Skype callers.
Indeed.
I see one right there.
I believe them.
I love that. Look at. He doesn't even know. We'll talk to him in just a second. Let me see. Look, give me the clipboard because I'm all excited about what we've got on the show today. I saw Michael Kenchington, and he's here, our home theater expert. He's going to talk about audio.
Always freaks me out.
Why?
Well, when you sit there with the surround sound, and you're like, wow, where is it?
And then and if you get the stuff in behind you, and you go, whoa!
So yeah.
Yeah.
Freaks me out.
The first time I heard surround sound, I was watching a baseball game, and there was a guy selling beer right behind me. I thought that was weird.
Yeah.
That was very strange.
Come down here.
Yeah. Where are you? So Michael will be here talking about audio. It is really kind of the most important part of your home theater. I mean, you can have a great picture, but if the audio isn't good, it kind of is lifeless. Tavis Dunn also, who works here at the lab, he's going to show us, he does a lot of the 3D animation and stuff. He's going to talk about Adobe After Effects, what it is and what it is not, and how you can use it in your graphics design. This is episode 17.
17.
17. There's something about that number. 17. It's prime.
Okay.
That's one thing. I don't know what that means. Who is that, and what can we do to help him here?
This is Daniel, and he's from Sudbury in Ontario.
Sudbury, Ontario. Hello, Daniel. Welcome to the lab. Great to see you on the show today.
Great. Thanks, Leo. Really nice talking to you.
Well, nice to talk to you. What can we do for you today?
Well, I think I'm looking for some advice.
Well, I'm full of that, that's for sure.
The thing is, I've been a Mac user since 1988.
Okay.
And I've never, ever installed any type of antivirus or anything of the sort. And the fact that I've never had any problems is sort of something I brag a lot to my friends using Windows.
Right.
But now that Apple is gaining some popularity, I'm
You're a little concerned that all this hubris is going to come to bite you.
Right.
Yeah.
Or the bad guys coming after me.
There are a couple of people that make antiviruses for the Macintosh. McAfee has one called Virix. Actually, it's a program that they bought. Symantec has Norton antivirus for the Mac. There's also ClamAV, which is a free one. ClamAV is kind of an interesting story. It's an open source antivirus for Unix systems that has been ported to Windows and Macintosh. The truth about all of these is they don't have much to do on the Mac side of the equation. There aren't any Mac viruses right now. There's some concept viruses that are out and about. Well, I shouldn't even say they're out and about. They're not even out in the wild, and they don't even work very well, those that exist.
Yeah.
So
I'm a member of a Mac forum, a very good forum, and the consensus seems to be don't worry about it.
And certainly that's what I think, and as a Mac user, I don't install an antivirus. However, you're right to say, well, maybe we shouldn't be so cocky,
right.
Because it could happen anytime. There's nothing about the Mac that inherently prevents it from getting viruses. There are Linux viruses, and no one would submit that the Mac is more secure than Linux.
Right.
It's more secure than Windows XP, but I think really in many ways it's protected by the fact that it's also a much smaller market share. If you're going to develop, why do you develop a virus? In the days when it was about bragging rights, the Mac had its share of viruses. And of course, it wasn't OS 10, it was OS 9.
Right.
And the reason it had share of viruses is because, if it's just bragging rights, you don't care really if it's 1 million machines or if it's 100,000 machines. It's still, you got the job done. Now it's about making money. These viruses are written by people who sell, they get these viruses on your machine, and they sell these co-opted machines to syndicates who use them for attacking other machines, for spreading spam, for things like that. And so, where are they going to go? They're going to go where the most machines are and where the least sophisticated users are. That means Windows.
But I should be on the more safe than sorry.
I don't think you need to install an antivirus. I think there's no advantage, and I think there's no reason to. If you install an antivirus, do the free one, ClamAV, and what it does is it looks for Windows viruses on your system. That way you don't accidentally forward one to a Windows user. I mean, you're not going to do that anyway.
Right.
But if you even want to, I would have a firewall turned on, but I think the most, and by the way, that's built into the Macintosh operating system, and if you've got a hardware router, you've already got a firewall. I think every computer user should use a hardware router. Now, here,
automatically?
pardon me? Yeah, it's a part of the router. That's what a router does, basically, is it looks at incoming traffic and it says, I didn't ask for that, and just ignores it.
Right.
There is one thing that all Mac users should do, all Windows users should do, all Linux users should do, and that is not run as administrator.
Oh, okay.
That's really important. And if at some point viruses do come out, almost certainly they will require you to be running as an administrator, because here's the deal. Unless there's like a big bug in the Mac software, here's the deal. Notice we're running as a standard account. See, it's unchecked. Allow user to administer this computer. If a virus gets in, it gets the privileges, the abilities that the logged-in user has. If the logged-in user is root or administrator, that means it can install itself, it can do bad things to the system file. If he's not, it can't.
Right.
It has to either ask permission or just go away. Right. So if you don't run as administrator, you're much safer. On Windows, Vista, on OS 10, and on Linux, it's easy, it's safe, and almost everything runs. Little trickier on XP because a lot of XP programs expect you to be the administrator, and that's kind of a problem. But if you're using Vista or Mac or Linux, just never run as an administrator. Always run as a limited user.
Oh, right on.
And you'll find there's literally there's just a few programs. Every once in a while, I find a program that won't install or won't work quite right. And they'll always work right, but it's usually the installation. And for instance, the Pocket Mac for BlackBerry, I had to go into this user preference pane, the system preference pane, the accounts, and change my account. I'd had to check that box, allow me to administer. Then I installed Pocket Mac. Then I unchecked it. So sometimes you'll have to do things like that, but that's very, very rare. Right. And you see, most of the time you'll get this authentication box that says, who are you? You're not an administrator. Type the name and the password of administrator. And that's a really good protection. That's all you need to do, in my opinion.
Okay.
Okay?
I have one little thing to ask you.
Yes, sir.
I bought a DVD writer for my MacBook, and it came with this 3-inch CD.
You can't use it.
I was almost tempted to put it in the slot.
No, good, don't. You'll never get it back.
It would have been stuck in there.
It makes me mad when people do that, because that assumes that you have a drawer.
Right.
It only works, it doesn't work with slot loaders, and even a lot of PCs now have slot loaders, but certainly laptops. So you'd never use a mini disc on a drawer. If you get something like that, what you've got to do is go to a friend who has a drawer CD player. It could be on a Mac Pro. It could be on a Mac. It doesn't have to be on a PC. But if you have a drawer, see, look at this. Then I'll get a shot of this. These drawers, you see, they have an inset for the little player, the little disc, I mean, and then the big disc. Right. If you have a drawer, then you could put that in there, and then you can get the files off of it, and he can give it to you on a USB key or burn it to a big CD. But never use a little mini disc on anything unless it's a drawer like that.
Right. I'll just use my old iBook for...
Yeah.
Okay, Leo.
Hey, thanks for the call. Glad you watched.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Coming up in just a little bit, let's get the surround sound started. 5.1, 7.1 subwoofers. What does it all mean? Michael Kensington will tell us, and more of your calls, too. As the Lab with Leo continues. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Lab. Leo Laporte here, and we are talking about home theater audio with our home theater expert, Michael Kensington. For the last 12 years has been working on home theater systems. He's now at soundplus.ca, a high-end home theater company here in Vancouver. And people, I think, a lot of times focus on the screens, and they forget the sound.
Yep.
In fact, sometimes they just use the sound that comes with a TV, which is the worst sound possible.
Absolutely. The sound is the other half, the missing link to your system.
And if you don't believe that, watch a movie without the soundtrack or the sound effects, and it's just ugh.
Absolutely.
So let's get the best sound possible. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of, there's Dolby, there's DTS, there's 5.1, 7.1, surround, stereo, subwoofers, tweeters. It's a very confusing landscape. First of all, most TVs now are stereo. They come with stereo speakers. Is that adequate?
In fact, we want to try and get away from the TV speakers and to have a dedicated home theater audio package for the sound.
Sometimes they have 3 speakers. Sometimes they have 5 speakers. Sometimes they have 7 speakers. Sometimes they have 8. How many speakers do I need, and what are all those speakers for?
Well, the reality is it has to do primarily with your room.
Okay.
The larger rooms tend to enjoy having 7.1 audio. Smaller rooms, 5.1 or less. Today, there's a lot of products that do virtual surround sound, where you can't get wires to the back areas for speakers.
So let's say I have a 5.1 system. That's 6 speakers total?
That's 6 speakers total.
Okay.
Yes.
What are the 6 speakers?
You have a left and a right speaker, like you would in music,
Stereo.
a stereo, and then you would have a center channel, and that one is usually located near where the television is.
And that's for the
above or
voice of the...
Carries all of your dialogue. It's actually one of the more important speakers in this system because it carries all of your dialogue in some effect.
And you want that to kind of come from the
that screen.
The center part, yeah.
There's nothing more distracting than having it coming from the left or the right-hand side. Exactly. And then you have 2 effect channels or surround channels, and depending on your room, depending on what you're listening to, they can be placed beside you or behind you. And in 7.1, you would have 2 beside and 2 behind.
Okay, there's 1 center channel, left and right, 2 behind. That's only 5. Where's the 0.1?
The subwoofer, the low frequency, the bass.
And where does that go?
Well, that's a good question. There's no hard, fast rule. If you can have the ability to try and locate it in multiple areas in your room to get the best bass response, that would be my recommendation.
Okay. You want the room you want to feel the bass, but you don't want it to overwhelm the sound.
Yeah, there are good parts for placement of a subwoofer, and there are bad locations in the room.
Right. Now, I have, in my setup, I confess to you, I'm maybe not the highest tech guy when it comes to home audio. I just have stereo speakers, and it does a pretty good job.
Oh, sure.
I'm not using the TV speakers. I tried that at first, and it really wasn't.
Sure.
Didn't have enough punch.
Yeah.
But I have a good stereo speaker system with subwoofer.
Yeah.
And it sounds pretty good.
And it should. The idea of the home theater system, first of all, was so that the whole family can enjoy the system, not just one person.
Right. So that you can sit 3 across or 5 across.
That's right. And in stereo, you can sit by yourself, equidistant from the speakers.
And I get center channel and everything.
Great effect. Exactly.
Yeah.
But what happens when the kids are there and the rest of the family to watch the movie? The center channel brings them to the television. The surround channels brings them the effect.
I see. Now, they do sell home theaters in a box, which is kind of everything all in one. You get 6 speakers, you get an amplifier, and it's usually a DVD player as well.
Absolutely.
What do you think of those?
Well, they're very cost effective. The one thing is you... Like with anything in this world, if you piece together higher end products, you will get a better result.
Right.
Home theater in a box systems haven't been as reliable as piecing together a good high quality amplifier or receiver, good high quality speakers from known manufacturers.
That stands to reason. If you're paying $200 for something, it's not going to sound as good as something you spend $2,000.
Exactly.
How much do I need to spend on a home audio system?
Each budget is individual.
Yeah. I mean, if I spent $3,000 on my TV, which is not uncommon.
Yeah.
Spending $200 on the sound probably is underspending.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, the good news is that theaters can be anywhere from, as you said, $200 to $500,000 and beyond.
Okay, we're not going to spend that much.
Why
At least
not?
I'm not. But maybe Shaquille O'Neal will.
Maybe,
but I'm not going to. So, is a rule of thumb spend, say, as much on the sound as you spend on the TV, half as much?
That would be a good rule, but I'd first want to find out whether the person who's going to use it is more an audio nut or a video nut.
I see.
So sometimes if you really like concert videos or it's going to be a primary music area, you would want to maybe invest more in the home theater audio.
That makes sense. It's funny, people used to buy stereo systems and spend a lot of money on stereo, and you sit and you listen to the music. Now it's really home theater. People seem to buy the TV and the audio all together, and they don't buy just an audio system as much.
Yeah, that's true. And part of it is, of course, our living space. We don't have the space to have one dedicated home theater system and a music room. Exactly.
So that's important that this is going to be your stereo system as well.
Oh, sure, in many cases.
How about an AV receiver? Has that become an important part of it?
It's easily becoming the heart of the system.
Yeah.
It does all of your amplification for your speakers. It does your switching of sources, your selection between your DVD and your cable box or satellite, what have you. It's also doing the video side, the component video,
That's
the
why
HDMI.
It's an AV receiver. It has video connections
That's
as well.
right. The central control of the entire system is based on a good, high-quality receiver.
And how much should I be spending on that?
Well, there are lots of great receivers under $1,000. We're finding some of the best brands are between $1,500 and $2,500 for a typical good receiver.
What are some brand names that you like?
I particularly like Pioneer Elite's receivers. They offer a great warranty and they are bulletproof.
Okay.
For music enthusiasts who are looking at that same budget, Arcam from the UK has developed some of the most comprehensive and well-designed receivers. They've gotten some of the best reviews on the industry.
So we're going to spend maybe $1,500 to $2,500 on a really good AV receiver.
Absolutely.
How many watts per channel are we talking about? Is that important?
Believe it or not, it's not as important as one may think.
Used to be that was the kind of the thing you look for in a stereo system, right?
Yeah. Again, part of what you want to look at is how good it does its job. The watts are only one factor in both the audio and the video elements.
Interesting. And how much are we going to spend on the speakers? If we spend $1,500, $2,500 on a receiver, how much are they? I mean, it used to be, $500 per speaker was like how much you'd spend for a good speaker.
Sure, and that might be a good rule of thumb.
That's a lot for a 6 speaker system.
You want to find out the size of the room as well. Larger rooms tend to need bigger speakers. Yeah. Sometimes they need 2 subwoofers, not just one. Smaller rooms, there are a lot of these very small satellite speakers or in-wall speakers.
They sound pretty good.
So if you could spend, you can spend under $2,500 for the whole speaker package and $5,000, and there's no hard fast rule there.
Sounds like if you care about audio, you're going to spend at least as much on your audio as you're going to spend on your TV.
Exactly.
Michael Kenchington is with soundplus.ca, a high-end home theater store, and they have an online site too, soundplus.ca. And when you come back, I want to talk about next time. I want to talk about remote controls, because that's a whole other subject.
Love to be back.
A ton of stuff. We'll talk more about your tech problems in just a bit, but first, let's take a close-up look at something having to do with technology. We got to dust these things before we take pictures. What is that? It looks like a camera lens. I don't know. Go to the website. No, it's actually not on the website. I'll tell you what, just stay here, and we'll zoom out to find out when the lab continues. Stay here. So what the heck is that? Well, zoom out a little bit, and you'll see it's a Logitech QuickCam, a webcam, just like this one. In fact, I think it is this one. See, I knew it was a camera, but I thought it was something. I didn't know what kind of camera it was. It's dusty because we just have it there. Look at this little sad camera. Let's make it a happy camera. Yeah, we sit there all the time. Make it unhappy in a minute. Let's take another call right now. Kate, who do you have on the line?
We have Rick, and he's from Nepean in Ontario.
Thank you, Kate. Hello, Rick.
Hello, Leo. How are you doing?
I'm wonderful. Welcome to the lab.
Thank you.
What can I do for you?
I take a lot of pictures with our tiny little digital camera that fits in my pocket. And as a 2-year-old, do you take a million?
Oh, yeah, you take a ton of them, don't you? First kid?
Yes.
Yeah. Second kid gets far fewer pictures, by the way. And by the time you got 4 or 5, you don't take pictures at all. You're just basically sleeping as much as you can. So, but you have a lot of pictures, as I do, of my firstborn. What can I do to help you with those?
Well, sometimes on the camera I get around to deleting the bummer shots, and occasionally I have deleted some of the shots I intended to keep.
Right.
I normally use Macs, but I found an app on the PC to recover everything from the card so I can get back the ones I
it's just like a hard drive. So anything that you could do to recover files from a hard drive or unerase them would work on a flash card.
Right. So how do I then clean that flash card out completely, preferably from the Macs, because I only boot up the PC if I absolutely have to?
A very good question. Let me show you, by the way, a recovery program that's absolutely free that I use all the time. It's from PCinspector.de. It's called Smart Recovery, specifically designed for smart cards, and it knows about JPEG and TIFFs, and all the typical image formats. So this is a great program for recovering them. And you're right, it's going to be able to recover anything that isn't overwritten. So the secret to deleting files permanently on a smart card is exactly the same as deleting on a hard drive. You need to overwrite it. Now, you said you're on a Mac, and as you probably know, on the Macintosh, the trash in the Finder has a secure delete. So if I go to secure empty trash, it will delete them, and the way it does it, delete securely, is by just overwriting it. So that works with the flash card too. So just mount the flash card as a drive, drag the files into the trash, and then use secure empty trash on the Mac, and it's gone. And that's exactly the same as it would be with any hard drive. On the PC, there's a very similar program called Eraser. Unfortunately, which is odd. Where'd you go? There he is. scared me. He's snucking up behind me there. This is Glenn, who has an interesting sense of humor. He wanders around. This is from Heidi.ie. It's called Eraser. It is a Windows program, graphical user interface, absolutely free, although they encourage you to donate via PayPal. And this does the same thing. It overwrites the data and then writes ones and zeros on it and erases it again. And that is a very effective way of permanently erasing anything you don't want people to see. And again, it works just fine as long as you mount the card, and that's the key. The card has to be mounted as a drive. Are you able to do that?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. So you've already got the tool you need. It's built into the Finder. It's just the secure empty trash.
I'm letting iPhoto do my deletes, and
No, iPhoto doesn't do it. Here's the deal with iPhoto. If you're running iPhoto, and you click the box that says delete these files, and then you copy all the files over and close iPhoto, the drive will still be mounted on the desktop. You can now select from the Finder secure empty trash. All iPhoto does is basically like dragging it to the trash. It puts it in the trash can.
Oh, okay.
And then the secure empty trash will delete it.
I never thought to look in my trash can.
Well, I'm pretty sure it's there, and if it's not there, then you can use another program also on the Mac called the Disk Utility, and this does a secure format. So it's hidden away on the Macintosh. It's in Applications, Utilities, and it is called Disk Utility. You've seen it, I'm sure. It's a kind of one of the lesser used but popular Mac programs. Here it is. And you'll see under the disk utility, if you have a disk, it won't let me do this, but when you do an erase, one of the selections on the erase, yeah, see, it's not going to let me do it because it's the master volume, is the erase. You can erase the, or securely erase it. So it's under security options, select an option. But see, I can't do it because it won't let me erase my master. Let me see, maybe it'll let me erase, now see. It won't let me erase my master hard drive. I don't know why not. But if you click this button right here that says security options, Sean's going crazy right now. What are you doing? And then select secure erase. It will completely format the drive, erase the drive completely. Okay? So that's, you know, if you're doing a bunch of them and you don't want to look in the trash or whatever, just stick them in there, have disk utility running, and just do a secure erase on each of them.
Very good.
Okay?
Thank you, Leo.
Hey, thanks for the call. Keep taking pictures of your 2-year-old. It's a lot of fun. They move fast. It gets harder and harder. Wait a minute. Stop. All right, coming up in just a little bit, we're going to take more of your calls, answer more of your questions. We also have a free file of the day, one of Yule's jewels. And as I mentioned earlier, we're going to talk about After Effects, which is an amazing 3D program. But first, it's time for our quiz question of the day. Who invented... I didn't even know somebody invented it, but I guess it makes sense. Who invented the drive-in movie theater? Henry Ford, Richard M. Hollingshead Jr., Thomas Edison, or Leonardo da Vinci? I think it's in his notebooks, isn't it? The first drive-in movie. I don't know. Go to the website, think about it, ponder, ask your friends. You can use a lifeline if you want. We'll come back a little later and talk about it as the lab continues. Welcome back to the lab with Leo. This is the place where we answer your questions, help you with your technology. And Kate has another oh, look at that picture. Oh, my goodness.
This is Brian from Niagara Falls in Ontario and his great-granddaughter, Hallie, who is 5 years old.
Oh, my goodness.
Beautiful picture.
She is precious. And what's his name again?
His name's Brian.
Brian. Okay, Brian. What a great picture of your great-granddaughter.
Yeah, great-granddaughter Haley.
Oh, you must be, Haley, you must be so proud of her. She is a beauty.
Yes, I am.
Well, thank you for sending the picture of both of you to us. What can I do for you, Brian?
I wanted to know, I've watched your show so many times. You talk about Linux now and then. If I install XP and install Linux, and I'm on the internet with Linux,
okay,
does virus still get into Windows?
Oh, what a great question. One of the reasons you'd use Linux, which is the free open source operating system that you could put on any computer, absolutely free. You know, you'll make a dual boot, so you'll be running one or the other. You understand that, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have it already running.
So, oh, okay, so you've already installed it. So the idea is when I'm online and I want to be secure, I'm not going to use Windows, which has all sorts of issues and scary stuff going on. I'm going to use Linux, which is much, much safer. And then when I'm done surfing, maybe I'll go back to Windows when I need to use it, although what you'll find is more and more you just get used to Linux and you stop using Windows, and that's fine. And you ask a really important question. If I'm using Linux, can something happen to me that infects my Windows? In theory, absolutely, Brian. In fact, it's possible to write a virus. The virus would have to be a Linux virus, but it's possible to write a Linux virus that looks at your hard drive, says, where's Windows, and installs itself to Windows. However, possible does not mean likely. And in fact, I don't know of any virus that does this. It is not going to be a problem. And because you're more secure on Linux anyway, you're not going to get the virus in the first place. So you would have to somehow get infected in the first place, and then it would have to be specifically written to look for Windows. And the reason you're not going to see that happen is, as I mentioned earlier, the virus authors are looking to infect Windows machines. There's much less percentage of them putting all that effort into infecting a Linux machine looking for Windows. They don't even know if you ever use Windows. Why bother? There are 600 million Windows users out there on the internet right now. And the vast majority of them take no security precautions at all. Those are the people that virus authors, hackers, spyware authors are targeting. Brian, you're way too smart for them. You don't have to worry at all. Because you're using Linux, you're absolutely secure. I wouldn't worry about it.
Okay, good. Thank you.
And I'll show you one more thing a lot of people do is instead of trying to, there's a couple of ways you can do this. You could use, and I'm not sure how you're doing it. Did you install it on your hard drive?
Yes.
Okay. Boy, you're an ambitious geek. You did it really probably the best way, which is a dual boot system. But for people who don't want to install on the hard drive, another way to do it would be to get one of these Linux live CDs, like an Ubuntu live CD, and just boot it and then surf the net, and then it can't do any harm to anything because...
Yeah, well, Knoppix is a live.
You're using Knoppix, okay. Yeah, Knoppix was the first live CD. So if you don't install Knoppix, if you just run it off the CD, then you're really safe because there's nothing being written to the hard drive at all.
Right, yeah.
So it can infect Windows. It can't infect you at all because you're running off a CD. Ubuntu does this. Most Linuxes now have what they call live CD versions that do this.
Yes, I'm aware of that.
Yeah, but I think it's easier to run it and faster to run it off the hard drive. So,
yes,
I think that's fine. I don't think it's a problem. I don't think it's anything to worry about. One more way to do it that I think more and more, you're going to start seeing more and more people doing it is running it in virtualization. The new Intel chips have hardware support for virtual operating systems. And a lot of people are using programs like on the Mac Parallels or on the PC VMware that allow you to run Linux within a window. For instance, right now I'm running this is a PC within a window on the Macintosh. This is in virtualization, and it runs very well. It runs just as fast as if it were native. Here's the Mac. Here's Windows. You could do the same thing with Linux, and you can do that on a PC.
You can do that with Linux and Windows.
You can. Now you have to buy some extra software called VMware. But by doing that, you never leave Windows. But when you're surfing... Pardon me?
Is that VMware?
V as in Victor, virtual machine, which is actually what it stands for. Virtual Machineware, W-A-R-E, VMware.com. By doing that, you don't ever leave Windows, but when you're doing the stuff that's dangerous, you're doing it inside a safe and secure Linux sandbox, in effect.
Okay.
All right?
I thank you very, very much.
Well, I thank you for calling. Give Hallie a nice big smooch for us.
Okay, we'll do that.
She's just a darling, darling girl. Oh, you're a lucky great-grandpa. That's neat.
I enjoy your show all the time.
Well, thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it. Hey, you too. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. What a great question, and I think a great solution. It just shows you could be any age and be a big old geek and do things like that. More of your calls coming up. I'm going to turn you into a geek. You watch out. Welcome back to the lab with Leo. Time for another call, and I think Kate has lined up something spectacular for us.
We have a lady, which is fantastic. It's
Yes.
Marilyn, and she's from Florida.
Hello, Marilyn.
Hello, Leo.
Welcome to the lab. I am very well. How are you?
Wonderful, and thank you so much for all that you have taught me over the years.
Oh, that's so nice of you, Marilyn. Well, I love doing what I'm doing, and I have to say, I feel like we're slowly winning over the world here, bit by bit, geek by geek.
You've won me over for a long time.
One geek at a time. What can I do to help you today?
Well, I recently got a notebook that had, it turned out the wrong BIOS. What it would do is it would start up the computer after midnight, whether it was in standby or shutdown. And of course, the manufacturer said this was my fault since I installed the operating system XP Pro myself.
No, I don't think that's the operating system. I think, as you said, it's a BIOS setting.
Well, I spent 2 hours on the phone with a very nice, helpful Microsoft techie, and that's what they thought too.
Yeah.
And then I told that to the manufacturer, and then he did send me the correct BIOS, which fixed the problem.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's not really he must have given you an update, but the truth is, it's just a setting in your BIOS. In fact, I think we've got, Sean this is what you see in the BIOS. This is the basic input operating system. It is the thing that actually on every PC starts before the operating system, and that's why I don't think you blame the operating system on this. You see, he's got selected one of the BIOS settings. Not every BIOS is going to look like this. This is a Dell. But one of the BIOS settings has an auto power on setting. And you see, you can set a time for it to automatically turn on. If that were set, let's say, to 12 midnight, as long as the machine weren't powered completely down by unplugging it, as long as there's any juice trickling into the machine, it will automatically turn itself on at 12 midnight. Actually, 0000 is 12 midnight, and that's probably why it turns on at 00, because that's 12 midnight in a 24-hour clock. So it's probably not that you had the wrong BIOS, but just that that one button was turned on. Whether they did that from the factory, I suspect that's what they did or not. Now, when they send you firmware updates, as they did, and you can update your BIOS, what that does is it modifies the contents of that non-volatile memory chip on your motherboard. It, has the side effect of setting everything back to the default settings, which includes disabling that wake up.
I see.
So that's all that was going on. And you know how to get in your BIOS?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I do. I've installed memory and
you know all about
set up
this.
Computers. But he didn't steer me in that direction.
He could have, that's the funny thing. If this guy knew what he was doing, he could have said, oh, yeah, well, Marilyn, try rebooting machine, and then while you're rebooting, and it depends, sometimes it's the escape key, sometimes it's the delete key, sometimes it's F12 or F11, but he'd say tap F11 while it's booting, and then it'll go into what we just saw, which is the BIOS setup screen. No, yeah, there it is right there, F11, and they'll go into the BIOS setup screen, and then he would have said, okay, now let's see, is the setting for wake up schedule turned on? Oh, yes, it is. We'll just disable that, and you're all better.
Well, you're right. He didn't know what he
didn't know what he was doing. So he said,
I had no idea that a BIOS could cause that much trouble. I thought it was a very basic system.
It is, but as PCs have evolved, they have more settings in there. In fact, there's another couple of settings you might want to check. There's one called Wake on LAN and Wake on Modem, where if you have a modem in there and the phone rings, the computer turns itself on.
Yeah.
Or if you have a LAN administrator on your network, the computer turns on automatically when the administrator says wake up, so that he can install software over a whole business network.
Well, I'm the administrator, and it's a network of one.
I know. And there's other things in your BIOS. Generally, you don't mess with it. It's generally okay. But as you get, because you're an advanced user, you might want to go into your BIOS, take a look, make sure everything's optimal. There are some things you can turn on and off, but this all predates the operating system. It's what happens before the operating system boots. And by the way, we're moving away from BIOS. We're moving to something called the Extensible Firmware Interface, or EFI, which is a whole new way of booting PCs. Most Windows PCs still use BIOS, but Microsoft has told and Intel have told everybody they want to move to EFI in the next generation of PCs. It'll be very similar, but it's actually more flexible. It means you can do more with your system.
Okay,
it's smarter.
I'll check that out.
Yeah, the BIOS is, that goes right back to 1981 and the very first IBM PC.
I had one in 1983. It had 2 floppy drives, no hard drive, and a BIOS.
And a little cassette adapter in case you wanted to have your data coming off cassettes.
There you go.
Yeah. Oh, memories. Hey, Marilyn, thanks for the call.
Thank you so much, Leo, and I'll be looking forward to listening to you.
Oh, yes, please do. Keep listening and keep watching the show. We thank you very much. I know you're going to want to listen to this one. It's Ryan Ewell with one of UL's Jewels.
There's a jewel here.
You're making s'mores? What the heck are you up to?
Well, first of all, this is a Mac, Linux, Windows free file.
Okay.
You need the Java script Java run environment.
Yeah.
Sorry. So before you can use this, you need Java run environment
That's
installed.
one way you can write a program and have it run on all of those things, is because there's Java runtimes for every operating system. So if you write it once and it runs on
there
many
you go.
different systems.
So I just want to preface that. So it's not
it's a
just
Java
standalone.
program.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's a mind mapping. It's called FreeMind.
I like this idea. Now you better explain though what mind mapping is.
Okay, well, you know, if you ever had an idea and there's just so many things going on, so you want to start grouping things, almost like you're brainstorming.
You just want to dump everything out.
Yeah, you just want to get it out, and you want to have things linking to
But
each other.
Not worry so much about the order or the sequence.
You know,
just dump it out, and then you use a mind mapping program to kind of organize.
And people probably remember, you know, brainstorming. You have a word, you circle it, you draw another line, but it's paper.
Let's as your s'mores example, you might say, well, I got to think about s'mores. I need s'mores. What do I need? S'mores, graham crackers, marshmallows, chocolate, flame, s'mores. Let's think of s'mores like Hershey's better than Cadbury or whatever.
Exactly.
And then you dump all that out, and now you've actually turned it into some sort of bizarre logic tree.
And it's really easy. So I started with s'mores here in the middle, and I just add another link there. And so down here we have a link, and we can start typing in, and then we can add another link to it, and we can you can collapse the windows.
And
so
you can draw lines.
You can draw lines. You can.
So it's kind of like outlining a little bit, huh?
You can do some crazy stuff. You can even, for instance, s'mores definition. I have a hyperlink here. So if I click on the hyperlink, up comes Wikipedia. You've got the s'more definition. You can link to other things in it. You can export it as a picture. You can add icons.
So you could have a front page that had kind of the 30,000 foot view, and then link to subsequent pages that would have more details.
So you can, and it's just
more about graham crackers. Click here.
Exactly.
Buy graham flour.
And I've always wanted to have one of these because, you know, I'm just thinking about ideas. Just get it out there, get it digital. It's really cool.
Mapping it. It's a neat idea. Now, what's this called?
FreeMind.
FreeMind.
Yes, it's a Ewell's Jewel today.
And it would be free?
Linux. It's free. Linux, Mac, and Windows. You just have to have the Java.
Which you do on almost all of the systems.
So,
I don't know many that don't, in fact.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. And of course, you can find it
at labwithleo.com, as always. Ewell's Jewels.
In that big long list now of, what is it, 18, 17 different jewels, each of them a gem, so to speak. All right, coming up in just
very good.
Yeah, you like that?
I like that.
Yeah, coming up in just a minute. How do you get, when you see this on TV all the time or in movies, these great 3D effects with graphics and text? How do they do that? Well, it's a little program called After Effects. And Tavis is coming up to show us how he uses it on the lab. But first, let's answer our quiz question of the day. Who, my friends, who invented the drive-in movie? Henry Ford? Sir Richard M. Hollingshead Jr., Thomas Edison, or Leonardo da Vinci? Get to the website, give us the answer, and we'll give it to you right after this. Stay right there. Welcome back to the lab. Before the break, we asked you who invented the drive-in movie theater. I know it wasn't Henry Ford. Well, actually would have gone well with his automobiles, but actually, I think this must be the answer. Richard M. Hollingshead Jr., because he's the only person I never heard of in that bunch. Yes, indeed. When did he invent the drive-in? Recently? It was before I was born. I'm pretty sure of that. Right before I was born, like 9 months before I was born. Tavis Dunn is our art director. He's the guy who does the lower third graphics, the title graphics. He does it for this show, for many other television programs. He's done it for big name clients like Nokia and Nintendo, and that's just the ends. So he's and uses, I'm sure, a variety of software packages. I mean, I see Windows on your systems. I see Mac.
Yep.
We're going to talk a little bit about After Effects.
Right.
What in the workflow, what place does After Effects?
After Effects is really the finishing tool.
It's the last thing you use.
It's the last thing you use. So you take your elements from Photoshop, you take your elements from 3D programs, you take your video clips, and you take it all together, and you bring it in After Effects, and you mush it all together, really.
So the title sequence for this show was composited, finished off in After Effects?
That's right. After Effects is the last thing it's going to see.
So you'd go into Photoshop first and do, the text and all of that?
Right.
Okay. Let's see some After Effects in action. This is a tool that was originally created by a company called Kosa.
That's right.
and is now owned
10
by
years ago.
Adobe.
It was bought by Adobe a little over 10 years ago.
Okay.
And they've developed since version 1, they've developed up to version 7, and a new version was just announced, actually.
And you're running it in Windows?
Windows, yeah. It's what I had available. But
it runs on the Mac, too, right?
It does run on the Mac, but it's not Intel compiled, so it's
better
quite
to
a bit
use it.
slower.
Okay. So you'd start with this graphic, let's say. Then this is done in Photoshop.
I create this in Photoshop, and what I want to do is I want to add a little video behind it. I want to create something. Let's say we're going to create a DVD package of behind the scenes of the lab and whatnot. So I have this logo that I created in Photoshop. I want to maybe not make it the main focus, put it in a corner, and take a video clip of a rehearsal or something that we created earlier.
And what you're doing now is called compositing.
Compositing, right.
Because you're combining different elements into a composition.
The basic idea of it is really similar to Photoshop. You have like a layer.
These are just layers.
These are just layers. You're just layering stuff on top of it.
The difference is a layer could be video.
Exactly.
Okay.
Video, animations, and whatnot. And it's.
Is there any audio in this at all, or is this not an audio program?
You can bring audio into the program. It's got some very, very basic audio editing tools.
So mostly you do the audio after you do it.
Exactly. After Effects does compositing really well, but some of the things that it definitely is not. It's not a video editor. It's not a 3D program.
Right.
It's not a Photoshop kind of thing. But what it does do, it does take elements of all those programs and kind of puts it all into one program.
So you changed the order of the layers, and that brought the lab logo back up on top, right?
That's right. And you'll notice down here, in the mode thing, there's transfer layers, which are really similar to Photoshop.
Oh, they sure are. All of the same ones.
And multiply.
So you can change how the layer looks on top
how it
of
merges with the background underneath it.
Right.
And the main difference between this and Photoshop is you see this right here. You have the timeline, which you can drag through it. And this is where a lot of people kind of think it's a video editor, because they look at this timeline, they think it's
right.
You push play and it goes. And what you see when I actually push play, it's loading into RAM right now. And then when it finishes loading the RAM, I'll actually be able to play back the clip in real time. But you can't.
So this is almost like rendering.
It's exactly what it's doing. It's rendering to RAM. But as soon as you change anything, it's got to completely re-render the entire clip, like you see the little green bars.
So what else could we add there? I mean, this is all you really need. Is just that's called a lower third graphic. Right
exactly.
Now,
it's a lower third graphic. But let's just add a little bit of pizzazz to the thing.
Pizzazz? Okay.
I have these glow words that I kind of animate, and you'll notice that it's in the graphic package quite a bit. Can't see it so well right there. But as I animate it, you'll notice there's these kind of.
Oh yeah, I love that in the background.
Just elements that kind of add.
Now, did you do those in Photoshop? How did you do those?
I actually did this in After Effects. I rendered this a few weeks ago.
So you'll type text in and you'll give it some special effects on top of it.
The nice thing about After Effects is got a lot of built-in templates, so you can type in a text. So actually, let's do that right now.
Is there a glow word template?
No, there isn't. This is basically something that I've mushed together with a whole bunch of different filters and effects and stuff like that.
Okay.
But you'll see there's going to be there's effects templates which really help you with.
These are starting points.
Starting points.
Somebody like you is going to really customize the heck out of it.
Play with the heck out. Yeah, absolutely. So let's add a center spot.
So you drag it on to apply the effect to it.
Nice and easy. Then you can render a preview, and you'll see it'll take a little bit because now it's.
And now it's going to rotate in. Oh, that's neat.
In.
You know, people have used iMovie on the Mac, are going to recognize some of these, but on the Mac, it's always kind of pre-done for you.
That's right.
This gives you a lot more control over it.
Basically, those tools are fantastic. I even use them sometimes, but when you really want to customize the heck out of it.
You don't want it to look like you did it with iMovie.
Exactly.
In other words,
you don't want to use those templates.
Well, show us, for instance, the title sequence. Do you have that? What do you have on here? I don't want to make you load anything big, but...
Well, a lot of those elements are in HD, so they take a really long time to render. This is why it goes back to it's not really a video editor, 3D program. You can't just push play with a lot of times, especially for stuff that's in HD, you push play or you push render and you wait for an hour. You go wait for a coffee, you come back.
I can take Photoshop, I can put a video in it, I can put animations in it.
Yep.
I can do some special text effects. What other things
you can also do some 3D functions too. But the thing is,
this if you want to see, this is what the actual show looks like in slow motion, and you'll see these. This is the show open. Those are the glow words that you were talking about.
Yes, the glow words, which is actually.
And you did some processing to do on the color and on the flashing and all sorts of stuff. That's all done in After Effects.
Hundreds of layers applied to that. Hundreds of color effects, hundreds of text layers and video elements that we had our camera guys go
so cool.
Shoot around the city.
Do you edit the video in Final Cut and then bring it into After Effects?
You really should. I didn't because I was under a heavy time.
Yeah, you did this in a few days.
Yes, yeah. which is it's not uncommon. But no, I took the elements myself and spliced it together in After Effects, which is
so you do have some capability. It's just not the ideal way to do it.
It's like an in between of all the programs.
Right.
It's not going to do
little bit of
3D
this.
really, really well,
Right.
but it's going to do it okay.
Show us some more little tools, because I love these tools. They're really fun.
Basically, it's considered to be a 2.5D program, which
2.5D. I like that. It's not 3D. It's not 2D.
It's not 3D. It's not 2D, but it's you'll see as I move the 3D camera around that nothing really has
oh, interesting.
a Z dimension to it, right? It's
so
all
you
like,
could use this to create transitions as well.
Oh yes,
your own
yeah.
transitions.
Tons of transitions and whatnot. You'll see it is 3D. I can move around it like it's 3D space, but
that's a 2D image.
Yeah,
it's not.
After Effects has no way of really turning that into a 3D object.
Yeah.
So
on the other hand, if you did that with another program, you could import it into After Effects and use it.
Which is exactly.
And that's really what it's doing. It's tying. It's compositing. It's tying different elements together to make a composition.
Mm-hmm.
See, it's nice to understand what these tools are, because I think a lot of times we talk about them, but we don't talk about where their place is in the workflow.
Yeah.
Now, how much is After Effects?
After Effects ranges, there's two versions. There's a light version, which is around the $600 mark, which, in my opinion, has most of the tools you'll ever want to use.
Okay.
There's some high-end tracking tools in the Pro version, which is about $900. Now, new versions have just been announced, so I mean the price structure is going to change.
When Adobe says there's a new creative suite, After Effects is one of the things that gets updated.
After Effects is one of the main programs. Absolutely.
And there is a CS3 just came out.
That's right.
So this is obviously a little out of the price range of most people. Is there a less expensive tool that people could try? How about Motion? Apple's Motion's a couple
Apple
$100.
Motion is a great program, but you have to, from what I understand, you have to actually buy the whole Final Cut Pro Studio.
Oh, you can't get it by itself.
But if you buy that studio and it comes with it, you're going to be able to do a lot of the same things you do in After Effects in that program. Some of the 3D compositing things aren't robust as far as I'm concerned in Motion, so that's the reason why I wouldn't really use it.
Is there another program for Windows that's like After Effects, or
not really?
This is the gold standard, isn't it?
Like the next one down, especially if you're on the Mac side, believe it or not, is iMovie. iMovie has a lot of actually surprisingly good color correction and surprisingly good filters and lens flare effects and stuff.
I'll tell you, I mean, everybody always tells me, oh, you should try Final Cut, you should go to get the studio or get Adobe Creative Studio, and I haven't anywhere near tapped what I can do in iMovie, and I'm going to wait till I'm done finished.
iMovie's got a great plugin infrastructure.
There's so much you can do, and you can buy more plugins. There's a lot of great ones.
After Effects, same thing too, though. It's very
plugins
much like
are available for this.
Plugins. Some of the plugins are really what makes this program shine. I think
look at all this. I don't know why you did that, but I like what you did.
I just literally fool around with like 4 layers.
What a fun toy, you know. I just wish these things were a little less expensive. So that
you can download a 30-day trial version.
Oh, you can.
Adobe, and it's complete. This is the cool thing. It's completely unlimited. And
so play with
30
it.
30 days, and you render stuff. It's not going to put a watermark on it. You can totally play with it. And
I would like
right
to see them teach this kind of thing in schools, because I think this is where people really get excited about what you can do with video.
It's the reason why I got into it and I got out of 3D stuff.
Isn't that fun? Yeah. Tavis Dunn is our art director. He does a great job. If you like the good look and style of the lab's graphics and its title elements and all that stuff, you can thank this guy here. Thank you. I thank you. Thanks, Tavis. We'll have you back to show you more of what After Effects can do. But we thought we'd start with a 100-foot level, 1,000-foot level, and 3,000, 30,000-foot level. We'll be back with another call, I think, right? Final words? We're almost done? No! We'll be back right after this. Stay here. Yeah, I don't know if those how long those rounds are, but Silent Bob's like beat up 18 boxers during this show. Hey, we're out of time. If you want to be on the show, go to the website labwithleo.com, fill out the form, and ask the question. You get to talk to Kate, and we'll get you on the show. We'll see you next time on The Lab with Leo.